All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's session about the Community Vitality Program. And note, as you just heard, the session is
Oh,
going to be recorded. So I'm Lori Runsman, Director of Grants with London Community Foundation. And joining me to present are Lindsay Ralph, the Foundation's Grants Officer, and we make up the grants team. Karna Tretman, who is a Foundation Board Member and the Grants Committee Vice Chair. And Al Day may be joining us as well, and he's our current committee chair. So, oops. My scroll went a little too fast there. Okay, so Lindsay and I will be highlighting the key things you need to know about the program, while Karna will be sharing some insights and guidance from her perspective as a committee member who has served and reviewed many applications through the past few years. But before we get started, Karna, if you could just share some opening remarks, share a little about yourself and maybe some general comments.
sure. So, welcome to everybody. This is always an exciting time of year when we do this launch, and every year it looks a little bit different. I've been on the grants committee, I think, for 5 or 6 years at this point. And it has been one of the most enriching experiences of my volunteer sort of activities. I think what I love about this grant is the diversity in terms of the types of applications we get, because they really come from all kind of aspects that make our community vital. So environmental applications, cultural, mental health and addiction, housing, food, just so many different parts of society that and work that I haven't been familiar with. So I think this is one of the most creative sort of grants there is, that you can apply for. I will say my day job is I'm Director of Community Programs for CMHA Thames Valley. So that's kind of the day job world that I live in, sort of mental health and addictions and housing, which is very much on a lot of Londoners' minds these days. But it's interesting to me the way that this grant works, because there's a lot of sort of other auxiliary areas of our community life that that bring richness that that I don't come across in my regular job. So I'm excited to be here. I hope I can answer people's questions or add to some of the conversation today. So thanks very much again.
Thank you, Karna. We really appreciate your participation. And I know you welcome questions. So I encourage everyone, as we go through the presentation, post your questions in the chat, and we will address them as we've left lots of time for Q&A. So here's the agenda for today. So we're going to highlight what's due in 2024 and what we'll be expanding upon. So please keep in mind, you're going to find the full program details in the applicant guide, which is now available on our website. And our goal today is to equip you with the right amount of information so that you can determine if this is an opportunity that you wish to pursue. Lindsay, would you like to share about what's new?
Lindsay's just getting Al set up on the call in another room, Laurie.
Oh, okay, perfect. Then I'll take this. No worries. That's great. So as you've noticed, we're launching the Community Vitality Program earlier this year. Usually we do it at the start of December, but we realize that December can be a really challenging month. So we wanted to give applicants more lead time at the start of the application to develop their project and their partnerships. So the first date that you need to be most concerned about is the January 23rd date, which is when all letters of intent are due. We recognize that long-term solutions and system change often does require collaboration. So we revised the program materials, and we're going to spotlight this aspect today to ensure that we're clear about expectations around that. And the foundation has changed its application system to Foundance Grant Lifecycle Manager. We're excited about this, and we hope that you're going to find it easy and efficient to use, a good supportive resource. We're mentioning, I want to keep in mind, for those of you who have used our system in the past, you will notice that you're going to have to set up your organizational profile again, and that your past grant applications are not accessible through the new system. However, we do have access to your past applications, so just reach out and we can send that to you. So as I mentioned, Lindsay and I make up the Foundation's grants team, and we're here to support you. So beginning next Monday, we've scheduled virtual and in-person drop-in times right up until the due date in January. So we'll be ready and waiting to talk with you and answer your questions. You can look on our website, and the schedule is all outlined there, along with the Zoom links for the virtual drop-ins. And if you'd like to come in person, we've got our boardroom all set and ready to go. So no need to sign up in advance. Just show up and bring your questions for us. Okay. Do we have Al online now? I wondered if Al wanted to bring his remarks.
I don't know that he's on yet.
Okay.
We're
All
still
right,
working on it.
Well, stay tuned, Lindsay. Thank you. All right, so vital signs. As part of, so London Community Foundation is a network of over 200 community foundations across Canada, and Vital Signs is one of the initiatives that we all, well, most of us do participate in. And so we produce a report every other year, and our most recent report focused on these issue areas, and they help us with setting priorities and identifying opportunities for action. So, for example, probably at least 10 years ago now, affordable housing really rose to the top as an issue. And from that, it was really a catalyst for us to initiate our Social Impact Fund, which cumulatively has invested over $21 million of loans to help with affordable housing. So when you're thinking about applying, we ask that you consider at least which one of these issue areas your proposal will be addressing. Also, as part of Vital Signs, when you visit the B, I'll go back for a minute, the BeTheChangeLondon.ca website, you're going to see our data hub. And it consists of data from both local organizations and stats from the 2021 census and the National Health Survey. So here's a screenshot just to show you. So if you wanted to zero in, let's say on the Crouch Resource Center's data that they provided, you just click on there and it'll pop up. If you click on the No Poverty Sustainable Development Goal, it will give you all the related data for that. Or you can produce data by vital sign. So it's a really dynamic, easily navigated site, and a good resource for you as you put together your proposal. We're really appreciative of all the organizations that worked with us. Matt Brewer really did a lot of work here on staff with this hub, and it is continually being developed. All right, over to you, Lindsay.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to go over the eligibility criteria for the grant. At this time, the foundation can only grant to qualified donees, and this includes registered charities, municipal governments, Indigenous governing bodies. The qualified donee is the applicant and responsible for receiving the grant. You must demonstrate the combined capacity of all parties involved to implement the project. All right, I just lost my slide. As already explained, it must address one of the vital sign issue areas. It can address more than one, but it has to at least address one. It must be implemented and impact LCF's catchment area, which is the City of London, County of Middlesex, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, and Munsee Delaware Nation. It's proposing systems change and long-term solutions and changes. Continuing on that, the first two bullet points here speak to the required commitment to optimize and leverage existing or new resources, which often will need collaborating and or partnerships, and there's more on that to come. The funding request must be at least 50K and is for no more than a 3-year period. And finally, the planned use of the grant doesn't include land acquisition, building purchases, and new construction. If there is capital, it's only 50% of the request, and staffing must be directly related to the project that you're applying for.
Okay, so moving on to how will your proposal be evaluated? So the grants committee will be looking at the innovation of it, its newness and approach, methodology, partnerships, and it could be something that has been implemented somewhere else, but not in London. So it's new to London. So there's various aspects of that newness that you can think about. The change that it's proposing. Is it long-term change or is it a system change? Does it take an undesirable trend and turn it around? Does it substantially improve results of current methods? Or does it fill an important unaddressed gap in the community? And then along with balancing the innovation, is there that accountability? And is it grounded in evidence or a credible change theory? Does it have a plan to achieve those outcomes? And is there evidence being provided of the capacity to deliver on the proposal's progress? And is the proposal realistically scaled? Is there a plan to attract funding contributions from other sources? Sharing and using local resources and expertise in a more effective manner, finding efficiencies in systems or services, and considering a way to sustain it, if that's applicable, beyond the term of your Community Vitality Grant. And will the project be led by, or will it meaningfully engage those who are directly affected by the issue being addressed by the project? Is it inclusive of community members with diverse lived experiences, including ethnicity, language, gender, sexual diversity and orientation, socioeconomic status, age, and physical abilities? Does it identify established relationships or the plan to establish them with those beneficiaries, including equity-seeking groups and those with specific socioeconomic needs? And finally, should the proposal involve collaboration? How well has that collaboration been established? What are the parameters? So we're going to expand on this particular point during the next few slides. Often collaboration can be, how often what is being described as collaboration is really a partnership between two or more organizations. And so partnerships come in lots of forms. And while there are many examples of different and successful partnerships in the nonprofit sector, there's fewer examples of successful collaborations. But collaborations are believed to be the best way to create really innovative collective change, but they are challenging to get right. So the differences between a partnership and a collaboration are similar to the difference between a group creating a salad and one making a soup. While a salad is the result of bringing together the best of the ingredients, it remains the sum of its parts. It does require good coordination, but not necessarily the same commitment or contribution by each party. The result of successful collaborations is more like a soup that melds together the contributions of each of the parties to create a unique dish that is more than the sum of the ingredients. Collaborations are not for the weak of heart. They require a lot of each of the participants in their organizations. So the factors for success include a shared understanding of the issue, a willingness and commitment to participate, that there are clear understanding of the individual roles, and that those are spelled out in some sort of an agreement, a memo of understanding, that those relationships are built on shared values and trust, and that there is those mutual benefits as well identified, and that there's appropriate governance arrangements in place. Should a collaboration not quite be properly formed, there's risks involved and the negative outcomes that can result. There's a power and control imbalance that could happen, damage to that trust that was established, a sense of lost identity, different and conflicting visions, different expectations of outcomes, and conflict about working styles. And ultimately, the goal that you are working towards is not achieved. So when the committee is looking at should your project involve collaboration, they're going to be looking at these factors, looking for those success factors, that there is that collective understanding, the role and responsibility outline, understanding around how the funding is going to be allocated and what resources are going to be provided to the different parties involved that in the collaboration, that all the skills and knowledge and behaviors and support structures are in place, and that there's senior leadership commitment and support. So before we segue to the logistics of applying, I wondered, Karna, if you had anything you wanted to add here about collaboration.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. I really like your soup and your salad comparison, because I think some of the most successful collaborations we've seen have been the ones that have become a soup. And I'll just give the example of the one we approved a couple of years ago that was a collaboration between Pathways and Munsee First Nation and I think various kind of people in construction. So the idea was to train people who were at Pathways to build these mini homes, because housing was really needed, in that community. And the people who were doing the training and the build were members of that community. And so kind of the idea was to come together, do the builds, and from there, the people who are doing the building could go along and, start their own business, or, they would be in this new profession where they could build other tiny homes. So it was truly, they were working together to make this work. You needed all those ingredients to get the result. And it was an incredibly positive experience, I think, by everybody concerned. And, and it is going along to bigger things. So not only did it work for this one project to build 2 homes, but it will, continue, I think, to build other homes in that community and other communities. And actually, I think the last we heard, other communities were looking at that model as a way to both train people and have housing. So that's one example. And I see Al is here now too. So he may be able to add on to what I just talked about.
Well, as usual, I'm having IT problems, but I think I've got it worked out. So yeah, I agree with what Karna was saying. The important thing about that collaboration was that there was a clear understanding of the two parties. They both had different objectives. In one sense, that Pathway wanted to train their people. At the same time, the First Nation wanted to build homes and provide a necessary outcome as every community needs housing. So it was clear to us that based on their proposal, letter of intent and their proposal and their presentation is that they had a good collective understanding of what they wanted to do. And the end result was the same, is that they wanted to build houses and they wanted to provide training. At the same time, Pathways filled a niche in their area of expertise, and that they provided training and had brought a number of folks together that provided the imparted skill sets to the First Nation. So it was a very useful and valuable contribution. And as Karna pointed out, you know, one of the reasons why the committee liked it was that not only it provided the immediate solution, but it also potentially was going to provide some opportunity for people to look at and review and perhaps do the same thing. And we understand that there are a number of people at our communities that are looking at that. I guess part of maybe what will happen is we find out is down the road is that there might be similar kinds of applications. So anyway, it was a very positive outcome.
Thank you, Al, and thank you, Karna. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay to explain how to apply.
So I'm just going to go over a few of the logistics right now. LCF uses the Foundant online system to receive proposals. The online system portal link, which goes live today, is currently live right now, can be found on the website page listed here. It can also be, that's the direct link to the Foundant page, but if you go to our website, you can also access it there. It's probably the easiest way to access the portal. And for technical assistance with the portal, or if you require an alternative format to submit, just contact me and I can help you out as best I can. So we'll go over the 3 review stages. So the first stage, as mentioned, is a letter of intent, and that's due by January the 23rd at 2 p.m. And then by mid-February, the committee will invite a selection of proponents to the second stage, which involves an in-depth application, and that will be due by March the 26th. And of those, the committee will invite a selection of proponents to an interview on May 23rd. And the interview will be in person, and the committee will be there in person as well. So that'll be the conclusion of that. And at the end of the interviews, the committee deliberates and selects those to recommend for funding to the LCF board. Once approved, a grant agreement is in place. The funding will be released in the summer. Since we've pushed everything kind of forward this year, it should be the beginning of the summer that funds will be released, assuming everything goes as planned. So for the letter of intent, just a few more details about that. That's the first stage that you'll be doing before January 23rd. So the letter of intent can only be 2 pages in length, and within the 2 pages, it should describe what the project is about and what the issues are that it addresses. List the benefits of completing the project, describe how the project will be carried out. Let us know who else will be involved and what their roles will be, including community members you serve, and how your project has nothing about us without us in its concept. Describe why the proponents have the capacity to undertake this proposal and achieve the outcomes identified. Describe at a high level the project's budget and funding needs, including which funders have been secured, which need to still be approached. And be sure to indicate which specific expenses LCF will be granting. Okay, so we're going to go on to the questions. And there's on the
Marty, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna respond to the comment and I started writing and then I thought it was probably easier just to speak to it. And no, you don't have to be part of a collaboration to put in an application for for a grant. It's just that in the past, there's been, I think, some wrinkles with some of the collaborations. So we thought we would speak to it in this presentation so that you would go in successfully, because there's been sometimes misunderstanding or maybe grants haven't been set up in a good way to put in a collaboration. So that's kind of why we focused on it. But absolutely, you don't have to be a collaboration to apply for funding. And probably Lori or Al or can add to that, but just wanted to respond to that question.
Alice, you can go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My question was regarding the condition or the in addition to the contributing funds. So that you just mentioned, if there are other funders involved in contributing to the project, is there a percentage of matching funds that are required? And is that a required element to have other contributors financially to the project?
So I can answer the matching requirement. There isn't one. We state in our applicant guide, we prefer not to be the sole funder. We understand that sometimes, especially when it's a pilot, you're needing that kind of first investor. But we're really looking for that indication that there's been an exploration of other contributions. Al or Karna, did you have anything to add to that?
Maybe it's a couple of things. I would say that ideally what we're looking for is two things. One is something that is different in the sense that they're tackling maybe the same problem from a different perspective. Ideally, we would like to be not the sole funder, but at the same time, as it's been pointed out, we're prepared to look at it. To me, the biggest thing would be is even though it's only 2 pages, one of the challenges that committee members have is how well the proposal is written in terms of what it plans to do or what it proposes to do. And so to me, that's the key part is and I know this is difficult. I've been on the other side where I've written proposals, and you have to understand and try to utilize the type of wording, the type of phrasing that you believe is going to be putting your best foot forward. So that to me is having a clear understanding of what you intend to do and what you want to do. And if it's a pure startup, sometimes there's a great idea, and it's a matter of that maybe the only sole funder. What we're looking for is how that penetrates this veil of not being the first through the door. At the same time, the opportunity that maybe it's going to attract other people, or at the same time you're going to be able to hit on that niche. So it's I don't know how clear the answer is, but again, it comes back to is well-written proposal, clear idea what you want to do, and from that, certainly as being one of the members of the committee, what we're looking for is all of those things all roll into one, and writing is key.
And I'll just hop in and add, I think we're always looking for projects that will be sustainable. And that sometimes is part of having other revenue resources, because if you have a great idea and you introduce it and people start to count on it to enrich their lives, and then it's okay, that's it, we're done after 2 years, that can feel like a loss to the community. So I think we're always looking to see that something can continue. If it's a good idea, that it will continue to provide supports or enrichment in the community. So it's a strong point if somebody else is also thinks it's a good idea.
Right. Quick follow-up question to that. Sorry, I don't want to take the floor, but is internal funds, do they count? So if the organization itself were to have their own investment in a particular project, does that count?
I think it does, like in kind, or this is an enhancement to an existing program. And you can demonstrate that it's different and fit all the other criteria. I think, I think that's happened before, right? Lori and Al and Lindsay, like I think it can be an existing program. For instance, and I'll just give you examples because I think it's good to understand that we supported the little tiny home units that Unity Project put in, but they had funding from a number of different resources. But I believe the London Community Foundation support was for staffing, so that the people living in them would have those supports. So, and they drew from a number of different sort of funding sources, but we added on an element that was important to the overall project.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
I would just further add to your to Karna's explanation. Capacity of the organization submitting is really key, and capacity can be measured in a couple of ways. One is just the ability, the internal, I guess their internal ability to carry on the project, but at the same time, the organization is providing not only capacity in terms of understanding what they want to do, but they're also providing funding. That would be great because it speaks to the issue about sustainability that was mentioned.
Mr. If you want to ask your question, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So it said qualified donees. I just wanted, and I apologize if you mentioned this before, but does that mean you have to be a charity to access this funds?
Yeah, we covered that at the beginning of the presentation. So yes, you have to be registered with the CRA. It's the same as any of the grants that we give out. You have to be a qualified donee, and that's where the potential collaboration piece comes in if you're not a qualified donee. So yeah, I don't know. There's not really much to add to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a little more information in the applicant guide, and there's a link to a resource that if you are going to partner with a charity that will apply, then here's what you should be considering too.
Okay, we have a couple more questions in the chat here, so I'll just go over those. And if I do miss any of them, just put your hand up because I might have missed them. So the first one, and this is, I can answer this one. It says, can an application relate to more than one vital sign? And of course it can. It can tick all the boxes if that is how it works for your project. So this one, from the date of the LOI due, okay, essentially how many weeks would the organization have to write a full proposal knowing they were invited to apply? I believe it's about a month that you'll have from the time you get told that you can, or invited to fill out a full application. So yeah, so you have a month. So if the application process is completed by summer, what's the expected start date of the project? So we usually say once you have your MOU or your memorandum of understanding signed by us and by yourselves, then you can start your project. So it kind of varies depending on when that gets completed. Typically by the end of August, you'll have your money. I think that's what we say. Oftentimes it's before that, but so you can use September 1st as your start date, or August 1st, depending on when all of the paperwork gets completed. Next question, can an organization that's from a different township apply for this if the program is being executed in the London region? Yes, the project just has to be completed within London or Middlesex or one of the 3 First Nations that is also in the applicant guide if you need to see that. Okay, next question. If I'm not answering these questions well, just put your hand back up and ask again or ask for clarification. I read that fixed assets or equipment are eligible expenses. We're collaborating with Habitat for Humanity for a new build for a safe house for survivors of trafficking. Would counters, dishwashers, kitchen appliances be eligible? Is there a list of what's eligible or definition? We primarily will be applying for staff. So staffing is completely eligible. As long as it's used for the project that you're applying for. You can't use it for staffing for something else in your organization that isn't related to the project that you've applied for. So yes, the rest would be as well. I don't know, Lori, if you want to speak to that further.
Yeah, so Karna has been using great examples, and that helps to explain it a little more. So a number of years ago, we supported a recording studio and a home music resource at the Boys and Girls Club. And so we were able to support all the different equipment and that kind of thing, as long as it's to do with the project. So it's very as we outlined in the applicant guide, we don't help with purchasing land, that kind of thing. So, but those other types of things are totally eligible.
Okay, and another question. If it's a partnered application, should the charity be the primary applicant or the startup / non-charity partner? Lori, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, the charity needs to be the applicant. So whoever is going to be accepting the grant funding must be the applicant.
Okay, and one more question on here. Just confirming that it has to be a brand new project or program. It cannot be an existing program that we're building on, adapting to and/or adapting to meet the needs of the community. Al or Karna, do you want to tackle that?
Sure, I'll start, and Al, you can jump in. I think if it's significantly different, that the change to an existing program is significantly different and impactful, that it would be considered. And I'm trying to think of, I'm thinking of that educational example where this was a whole kind of learning kit. It was supporting children to learn to read. And they kind of applied more of an equity and diversity lens to the materials they had to update them so that they were applicable to kind of diverse cultural groups and children. So it was based on, a program that this organization had, but they adjusted it for a particular, group of people they were hoping to reach who they thought would benefit from them. So I think, there can be some really creative ways to enhance existing programs that we would definitely consider, I think. Yeah. I'll let Al add to that if he has something else.
Yeah, I guess just an answer to the question. The program, I say, that's being delivered, one of the things we learn as we go through our experiences, we learn that sometimes we're not quite on point, or sometimes the goals have changed, or sometimes society impacts us. So I would say that on one hand, the program, as Karna pointed out, the one she was talking about was Strong Start. It was a good example. They were doing a very effective job, but as part of societal changes, societal norms change, what they realized is that they weren't targeting necessarily the groups that they wanted to. And so what they did was they proposed that they would adopt and change some of their material that they were utilizing. So it's a good example of adapting doesn't mean the same program, but with different, I guess, different target groups or different outcomes as well. So it's not an absolute no. It's a matter of can you adapt and can you change? And again, depending on societal norms, it's quite conceivable that that would be likely to be possible to be funded.
There's another hand up if you want to go ahead. Sorry, your name's Matthew Brewer. And you're muted too.
Sorry. I'm Sonderlin Coulter. I'm from the London Abused Women's Centre. Hi, Karna. And Lori. Our safe house that I wrote about earlier is scheduled to open in May of 2025. So we rate, in September 2024, but that's where we could use the fixed assets. But would it be okay to start the funding for staff in a couple months before for the training? So say March 2025.
So you froze for a little bit, so we lost a little bit of your question, but I think we heard enough. Oh no, it's not your fault. Technology. I think from what I understood is that you're just going to be rolling out the program, the house in stages. So that's totally fine. You would be able to explain all of that, and yeah. I don't know, Karna and Al, if you had something to add.
I would say that as the programs were delivered and you're going to provide a new training for staff, then I believe that that's something the committee would certainly consider, because part of going forward is adaptability of what you plan to do, and if you're not currently doing it, you're going to have staff trained to provide that. So to me, the answer would be yes.
Yes, it would be a brand new program. It's never existed before. So that's so we would need to train staff to do that. But I just wondered about the timing. So I appreciate that it would be eligible. So thank you.
I'm just going to hop in and encourage people to use the drop-in times with Lindsay and Lori, because I don't think we ever want to limit people's imaginations and creativity when applying for these grants. So don't just assume it's not eligible. I would encourage you, however far-reaching your idea is, to check in with Lori and Lindsay to see if it's applicable, because I think we try to make this a very broad kind of grant and get some very, very interesting kind of proposals that I worry if we're too restrictive that those proposals won't keep coming forward. So I think Lori and Lindsay are wonderful and are really to the point and can tell you, yes, this is a possibility, or no, it isn't. But keep dreaming and thinking of ideas, because we love seeing like a lot of the unique ones that come forward to us. It's exciting and encouraging to see that people are thinking really long term and of impactful projects.
There's one more question that's come into the chat. And it kind of goes along with what you were just saying with long-term funding. So if the project's over a period of 2 or 3 years, would funding be given each year or a lump sum at the beginning of the project? And I can answer that. It's just a technical question. So it's really up to you, depending on the needs of your project. It's been done multiple ways. So if you require the lump sum at the beginning in order to get started with what you're doing, then that's fine. You'll make that clear in your application. And if you do want it over in increments, you just have to complete a progress report before your next sum is given out. So that's really the only difference. So it really depends on what your project is and how the funding would work best for you. Does anyone have any other questions? Again, as Karna mentioned, and we mentioned in the presentation, we do have lots of drop-in times. So if you do have questions, or feel free to send myself an email whenever, if something comes up while you're working on it. Otherwise, Lori, you can take over again.
You did. Here I am. Okay. Well, thank you all. And I just reinforce, thank you, Karna, for your confidence in Lindsay and I that we will be good resources for you. And we really do hope that those drop-in hours are convenient. And we really appreciate you all being here. It's very exciting to see the interest. And we look forward to applications coming in. Take care. Bye, everyone.